What's going on, Whisper Nation? It is Monday, August 9th, which means another mock draft coming your way. This time we have a 12-team PPR Superflex mock for you. Let's get this one started.
Right here.
It's going to be me and Johnny Game Time Hicks running for you today. What's going on, Johnny? How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing all right, man. A lot of things going on. Trying to get this update completed so we can send it out today for the draft kit. Got some really cool stuff going on. We're going to update the player projections, things like that. So really just grinding, getting ready for this season. Lots of information been coming out with all these player injuries, man. I swear it's like left and right. It's just, oh, this guy's going to be out for a couple of games. This guy's going to be out half the season. Like,
so the
you get an injury, you get an injury. Yeah, it does. It definitely, we're trying to get that out and released on updates every single week as far as the draft kit goes. And then we're working on a way to more streamline getting those rankings on our website so people can just go and check those. And, you know, they'll be immediate as far as those being kind of updated, you know, day to day. However, like the draft kit stuff will be released, hopefully, you know, it's on a weekly basis.
On a week-to-week basis. And where can Whisper Nation pick up that draft kit if they haven't done so already, Johnny?
So there's a link in the bio of this description in this video, as well as you go to the fantasywhispers.com / just go to the shop area, and it'll be right there, right? The very first thing, it'll say 2021 Fantasy Whispers draft kit. It's got an awesome picture of Josh Allen on the front.
It's got Josh Allen on the front, which we know Whisper Nation, as well as the rest of the fantasy football community, has been in love with. I'm sure we'll see him coming off the mock draft here pretty soon. A mock draft where we got one spot left. Wilson 271 asked, is the mock full? No, it's not. Wilson 271. We got the 5 spots still open. And Wilson's wanting to know, how can he join? Johnny, what's the best way for someone to try to come in and grab that one remaining spot in the 5?
I'm dropping the link right now for that last spot, so you can click it there. But the easiest way is to go and join our Discord. It's free to join the Discord. We drop the links in there 15 minutes prior to going live. And then you can click on that link. It's first come, first serve in there. And then after that, if you're following us on Twitter, TF Whispers, we will drop the link about 5 minutes after that. So you can also click on that link if there are any spots left. But lately, these have been filling up really, really quickly. There's one left today. So we'll get, as soon as we get that filled up, we will start this mock.
So yeah, go ahead and take a look at our Twitter. If you haven't followed along there, do yourself a favor. We got some really great insights that have been coming out. It's a fun account on top of the live links coming out from it as well. So Whisper Nation, we have the one spot left here in the 5. We'll get that going here in about 30 seconds, regardless if we get that one filled up or not. But while you're listening on this one, we got the draft kit plug that's coming. That's available now. It's getting updated every week. That is building up to the regular season, which will be getting started after Labor Day. But in preparation for your actual mock drafts, or your actual, league drafts, we're going to be doing our mock drafts every Monday at just after 12 o'clock Pacific time, as well as regular weekly comment coming from Johnny, Travis, and the rest of the Fantasy Whispers gang every single day. Isn't that right, Johnny, throughout the week?
Yep, absolutely. And we go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, drop episodes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's going to be, we're putting out a lot of content. And
the easiest way to stay up to date on all that content is simply by liking and subscribing. If you like what we're saying and you want to hear some more of it, or at least know when more stuff is being said, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. It allows us to continue doing what we love to do so much. And that's getting ready for the upcoming NFL season, Johnny. We got a full mock draft room here. We got Whisper Nation that's turned out. We got Easy Daddy in the 2, Death by Rona in the 3, Pizza Bell in the 4, Football Ninja just joined us, took up that last spot in the 5, NYG Noah, Drew K. Lou, the Cast Pajamas, Smitty Satao, Buck, Wall Drop 3, and Brocal 38 coming in. Should be a really good one. Johnny at the 12, I'm at the 1. Anything we want to let Whisper Nation know before we get this one started, Johnny?
Nope, it's a super flex. So there's 2 quarterbacks that you could play, 2 running backs, up to 3 wide receivers in your starting lineup, and a tight end. No defense or kickers on this.
No defense or kickers, John. It's a great point. Know the rules coming in. SF stands for super flex, not standard format, as we had picked up on the mock draft marathon. If you didn't have a chance, Whisper Nation, to listen to the mock draft marathon, we did 24 live hours of mock drafting alongside some of the industry's best, including Adam Rank with NFL.com, Liz Loza, lead analyst for Yahoo. We had former head coach Hugh Jackson of the Raiders and the Cleveland Browns join the show. Jay the Plug, all the boys from Club FFL. Drew, Dave Kluge. There's so many that I'm forgetting on here, which is fantastic. Do yourself a favor, check out the live recap from the mock draft marathon. It was awesome.
Awesome. You went first up, we got Jay in here watching, so we appreciate Jay watching and tuning in. If you guys could hit that like button, we'd greatly appreciate it. You went CMC here. You don't. So normally it's me and Big Travie that are drafting, and you kind of steer the ship. But no Big Travie today, so you jumped in the mock with us, and you took CMC first. You wanna talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I'm looking at 3 players and that elite 1, 2, 3. I think the industry consensus is really 1. It's Christian McCaffrey and Christian McCaffrey alone. Dalvin Cook would be number 2, and Derrick Henry coming in at that 3rd spot. Some folks are trying to bump Kamara up with the Michael Thomas news. I'm not one of them. Love him in the first round, just not in that elite camp this season. Need a little bit more volume for me, but in a PPR format, he's right there too. But Christian McCaffrey does stand alone in terms of the role the team is looking at him with, what he's done in the past, what he's projected to do moving forward, and just his overall skill set. I love the hammer ability of a Derrick Henry. I love him on the goal line for me, but in the open field, a Christian McCaffrey can just make your fantasy week. So I'm just not going to get cute with it. I don't need to think too much about this one over. I could split hairs all day long, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to take Christian McCaffrey number 1. I'm going to delay a little bit on the quarterbacks because I just like to see what ends up being available after the mad dash is done. So that's where I'm thinking of Christian McCaffrey.
I like it. A lot of people might, comment, oh, you should have taken a quarterback first. You should have taken either Pat or Josh or Kyler with that number 1 overall pick. But like you said, this is a mock draft. This is why we practice. And so we could see how we do other things. You might get to that second round and be like, man, I should have taken a quarterback first, but now I know. So if I'm in that situation again, I know what to do. Or you might actually like the way the quarterback falls to you, and you end up having a monster lineup there, depending on something that you're just trying out.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I try as best I can in mock drafts to do what makes me uncomfortable, not what makes me feel good. Because we try to win these mock drafts, right, Johnny? And to the point of where, like, Johnny and I sometimes don't create as engaging of a show for y'all, Whisper Nation, because we care about our mock draft being the best it can be. That's how much we actually care about these. But that's like the point, right? Like, everybody feels this. That's why we love mock drafts so much. But do what makes you feel uncomfortable in a mock. Try something new on for size. See what happens if you go upside down. See what happens if you delay taking a quarterback or a running back or whatever you perceive as the most valuable position given that mock's format. And just see how it works out. You know what I mean? It's going to create new pathways, and you need those pathways to be available to you and you to be somewhat familiar with them when your actual draft happens, because the last thing you want is to be on the clock with 20 seconds ticking away and you don't know what you're going to do, and you're starting to feel that, like, let me just go with the fortune cookie route. Don't do that. Mock draft with us. Get used to it.
Exactly. And I'm going I should have taken a quarterback here. That's what I should have done. But once again, I could not pass up on a combination of Nick Chubb and Ezekiel Elliott, 2 guys that even in a PPR league, I think, I understand it's a PPR league, but Nick Chubb is going to get fed this year. He actually catches the ball more than people think, especially diving into his stats and his analytics. A lot of people don't realize how good of a catcher he actually is. And I think that there's a lot of upside there that most people don't think of. Everyone thinks about, Kareem Hunt's upside, but then they refuse to think about Nick Chubb's upside. And that's if, one, they give him the ball
that's
more
a good point.
Or they, or Hunt gets hurt.
Everybody kind of likes to say Hunt is the slept-on halfback, right? They love to point out how we did better with Nick Chubb in or out or whatever it might be. And everyone's kind of forgetting that Nick Chubb is metrically maybe the best running back in the NFL. The opportunity is right there for him. He is the main vein. And Johnny, we've been talking about that re-signing for a few weeks. I think this is the first mock draft we've had where that extension, that 3-year, was given to him. Right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was a little bummed that I was excited for him as a player to get paid. We always get excited when players get paid, especially a really fat contract that is well deserved, like Nick Chubb has. But it is so nice to, everyone, you've seen it. We've seen it in all sports. Players want, especially in that contract year, they really try to go out and go ham. I'm not saying that Nick Chubb kind of holds back now because of that, but you certainly like that added little motivation, each and every single game of being like, yo, I want to get paid at the end of the season. So
is that actually real though? I know it sounds psychologically true, but have you ever seen a stat that backs that one up, that contract year seasons are improved compared to non-contract year seasons?
It's not like an actual statistical, like it's not something that you could point at and say, yeah, 100% of the time, these players perform a lot better. You just generally see them play a little bit better. I feel like from the eye test, now it might not, statistically, I couldn't tell you, oh yeah, on average, a contract player gets, 200 yards more and, 10 more reception. I don't have those kind of stats, and I don't believe that those kind of stats are out there. If anyone does know of those, please send them my way. I'd love to look at them. But yeah, it's more of like a theory thing that gets just tossed around in the fantasy community, and you kind of just piggyback. But that's a great little case study. Very interesting.
Whisper Nation, if anybody out there has data on contract year performances compared to non-contract year performances for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, I would be very curious in taking a look at that. Let us know if we've got that information available, because it is one of the most go-to narratives in the fantasy community. But again, it's like, I wonder how much that is really applicable, or how much it just sounds good. Speaking of sounds good, I like that Stephon Diggs is still available here for me all the way on the backside.
I thought about pairing him. I was like, should I go Chubb and grab Diggs, or should I go Elliott and grab Diggs? I cannot believe he fell all the way to you. Like, and you have there was hardly any quarterbacks. I mean, yes, the first round went a lot of quarterbacks, but in the second round, only one quarterback so far. So this strategy really paid off for you of waiting on that quarterback, because now you got CMC, which is arguably, in a PPR league, the most valuable player we have, right? And then now you have an opportunity to either solidify a solid quarterback, two solid quarterbacks, or you could go and grab. I mean, I would grab Diggs. That's an unbelievable value.
So here's where my head's at right now. I'm going to take Diggs, as we saw Hugh Jackson take Stephon Diggs number 2 overall. I wouldn't go that high on him, but the logic behind it is sound, right? It is a elite wide receiver with an elite relationship with his big armed quarterback. And that rapport is only going to grow. So barring injury, which we're never going to count on, Diggs is the hands down easy choice for me right now. I'm going to keep fading on quarterback. Now, I said I was going to fade on quarterback through for a little while, but I didn't expect to see Aaron Rodgers, Johnny, still available. Last year's number 2 overall in all metrics, and that last year's MVP, who's back. And I think he's in as much sense as it makes or not, in a prove it type of year. I think that he wants to come out throwing. So I think he's got a really good shot. But I also like DK Metcalf. I really like DeAndre Hopkins. He's in my elite category. And then you can never just fade on, at least give a little consideration to a J.K. Dobbins, a CEH, a DeAndre Swift. I'm losing time here, though. I love the DeAndre. I'm going to go ahead and just build up with more elites. That's going to be my goal here. And if this was an actual draft, I would take Aaron Rodgers. But in my rankings, I have Hopkins as one of the 4 elites, along with Stephon Diggs and Christian McCaffrey. So I'm still getting to do 3 elites by that clocking. And Aaron Rodgers, we'll see what I get now fading on Aaron Rodgers. I would obviously love to have him more than some of these dark horse, lower down tiered quarterbacks. But I think the upside of some of those guys, whether they be a Matt Stafford, whether they be a Baker Mayfield, a Jalen Hurts, if he gets that starting role, is right there. And a DeAndre Hopkins production, though, is more difficult to replicate.
I am very intrigued by Hopkins this year, because it's not like I'm fading him majorly, but I do have, there's some concerns, right, for me as far as the target market share. He probably is not going to see what he saw last year. Obviously, they have AJ Green. They now have Rondale Moore. They're moving Christian Kirk around. It'll be, I expect Kyler to pass a lot, but I think he'll spread the ball, which that's the only reason I'm concerned with Hopkins. But again, Hopkins is one of those players that's just like, he's so good. And you could also make the argument that, okay, well, now he can't get double teamed as much. So he'll have one-on-ones. And so I definitely get the argument. He's one of those guys, once again, that I have in my top, 6. It's not like I'm fading him majorly,
Yeah.
but like if you, once again, if you said to me, hey, he finished higher than that, I'm not going to be surprised. But if he finishes lower than that, that's what I'll be like, yeah, like that's kind of what I suspected.
I just feel great about DeAndre Hopkins coming in here numerically and qualitatively. I look at him coming in his second year now, a year where we faded on him last season because it was that first time playing with Kyler Murray. And the dude had over 1,400 yards and 6 touchdowns to be the number 4 wide receiver in PPR formats. I like that. And at age 29, and given DeAndre Hopkins' work ethic, his skill set, I don't think he's getting any worse. I think he's even going to get a little bit better. I think he locked in his relationship with Kyler Murray as the number 1. And additions of AJ Green don't concern me at all from a production for DeAndre Hopkins standpoint. They just encourage me from an Arizona Cardinals ability to get first downs and move the chain side of it. I look at how he closed out the season last year. And last year, they had Larry Fitzgerald, they had Christian Kirk, they had Andy Isabella. Guys weren't very good, but they did have options. And DeAndre Hopkins, and is to close out the season, if we're looking at the targets, 13 targets, 11 targets, 11 targets, 12 targets, 10 targets. He was still looking pretty good. So I like what he could be about. I'm putting him in the elite. If you want to put him elite minus, okay. But I'm feeling good about Hopkins. What about you, Johnny? What are you trying to pair up right now? You're thinking, we just saw Rodgers come off the board right behind some of those not elite wide receivers, but no one's surprised if they lock it down as elite status this year at the end of week 18. DK Metcalf, I'm talking about. Justin Jefferson, who was volatile but undeniable. Calvin Ridley, AJ Brown, preseason, our number 1 wide receiver before Julio was signed. What are you thinking right now? We saw those guys come off the board. What are you looking right now to pair up at the end of the 3rd, top of the 4th?
Yeah, I do think that DK is one. I was really hoping that AJ was going to fall to me. That just would have been too perfect. I do think he steps into that, elite tier for me this year. Same with DK. I am a little concerned with Jefferson now that with that shoulder separation stinger. We'll see what the timeline kind of looks like for him. But, I like some of those guys. I was hoping that, like I said, AJ Brown was, dang it. That's who I wanted. I wanted Waller. I really wanted Waller there.
You got Kittle.
I couldn't believe that he was there.
I know. I thought about taking him too. I was going back and forth between Waller and Kittle were low key who I was considering more than Aaron Rodgers just to get that positional separation. But what do you think about Kittle in this spot? If Waller's gone, is Kittle in that same category or is Waller a tier above?
I think Waller's in the tier, but I think it's like 1A is Kelsey, 1B is Waller. I wouldn't be surprised. I actually am kind of starting to lean on the boat that Waller will end up finally dethroning Kelsey as the number 1 overall tight end this year. And so that's where why I really want him. I am concerned about Kittle a lot.
Health issues and incorporated.
Okay, I'm gonna go Terry McLaurin here, and
I like it.
And then I'm gonna grab a quarterback. I'm gonna go Tom Brady. Tom
Brady.
Yeah,
over 4,600 yards passing on a torn MCL. What could he do this year? Those wide receiver cores are going to be even better.
Yeah, and the whole season of AB, he had 40 touchdowns last year, like unbelievable. I think with Waller, and when you're talking about Waller and Kittle, there's a couple of concerns for me and why I'm not so high or so willing to take him if I miss out on Waller. A lot of people are, and a lot of people still have that confidence. And it could, I mean, like I said, I have him ranked as my tight end 3. But I would be lying if I didn't say that there were concerns that I didn't, I kind of factored into that ADP or that ranking, but not 100%, right? So we're used to Kittle missing 2 games at least minimum over the last 3 years. That's about his average that he's missed. The other thing is with the emergence of Brandon Ayuk and potentially a full season Deebo Samuel, I think the targets there could be way different than what he had, prior to when he was like breaking out. There really wasn't very much, production there at the wide receiver position, or a lot of talent there at the wide receiver position. And so I just think there were a couple of factors that really lined up for him that year, and that really helped him break out. Now, I still think the talent is there, but I do have the concerns, especially with the quarterback too. Like that battle, what's going on there. I just think I would rather stay away. I'd rather get a guy like Terry McLaurin, who I know is going to be he's an elite wide receiver. We've been saying this for years now. And I think he's finally paired with the right quarterback to really elevate his game and really get him to that breakout potential. And he's one of those guys that, again, at the end of the season, you could potentially see him as I have him ranked, I believe, at wide receiver 7, something like that, wide receiver 8. And if he finished higher than that, would I be surprised? Absolutely not, because we've seen this from Ryan Fitzpatrick and what he does to wide receivers, and we know the talent of McLaurin. Now, am I going to tell you that that's going to definitely happen? No, but I still think his floor is a little bit safer than Kittle's, excuse me. So that's why I went there.
I like what ML said here in response to this topic. I agree that I think Kittle is a step below Waller, which is Johnny's position. I can't put my finger on it, but something just doesn't seem right to me with Kittle going into this year. Yeah. And if I may, part of Kittle's, for me, I agree with this take, and it's hard to put my finger on it, but if I had to take a stab at it, I would argue that Kittle's elite blocking and what he brings to the field outside of fantasy relevant points that don't just keep him on the field. Like, I love that he blocks so well, because then he's on the field 99% of the time. But I don't care if he lays a sick block. I want him to catch 50-yard touchdown bombs. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he does so much, as where Darren Waller reminds me of a Drew Brees' favorite tight end. If we go back, why can't I remember?
Jared Cook.
No, even before that, like man.
Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham.
Thank you. Of course. Jimmy Graham, who, is Rob Gronkowski, and it was Jimmy Graham. Like, it was those two right there back in the day. And Jimmy Graham, though, is not a blocker. That is just an enormous wide receiver playing tight end. And that's kind of more of what I get from Darren Waller. Mm-hmm. So they want him to be the main vein. And Edwards is not going to take over as the lead target. Ruggs is not going to take over as the lead target. Drake is not going to take over as the lead target. It's going to be Darren Waller, as it totally should be. But your points about George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk is there, Deebo Samuel is there, and it shouldn't be George Kittle, right? Like, it should be these other guys. Get them involved and have them do what they do. Mm-hmm. So if you're maximizing these guys to their fullest strengths and their potential, you're keeping George Kittle on the field to block some, and you're keeping Darren Waller on the field to catch corner touchdown passes. So, like, when you can't put your finger on it, I think it's Waller's epitome is fantasy relevant, and George Kittle's is great for football, but it's a hair below his fantasy relevance or his fantasy impact.
Yeah. Well said. I like that. All
right.
You're on
my
the
selection
clock.
Here.
Yeah.
I know. I got my 2 sexy wide receivers here in Diggs and Hopkins. I could throw a Mike Evans in there, a Godwin. I like that, but I'm not going to do that. Maybe this is the time to start taking a look at what the other running backs are. I'm a big Darrell Henderson fan coming in. I think he's really being slept on, and maybe a quarterback to begin pairing up. There's no tight ends that stand apart. I'm not on the Kyle Pitts or Mark Andrews, not this early. Not in love with these. I think I am going to go with Darrell Henderson, actually, and I recognize the risk, Johnny. Mm-hmm. I just love the upside, though, of a lead Sean McVay halfback. And I know Knox could get it done. They could have somebody fill in and make a committee go down. But we saw Darrell Henderson perform last year. We just need him to be healthy. Malcolm Brown is gone. Cam Akers is gone. Like, it should be Henderson, and everybody else is going to be supplementing his production. And his ceiling is high because of his playmaking and that offense he's going to be, especially with Matt Stafford now behind center.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are sleeping on him and just like his true potential. I get that everyone was really high on Cam Akers, and we were all hoping that had panned out, but
sure.
It didn't. And I know a lot of people are also expecting, and why his ADP is a little bit lower, a lot of people are expecting that they'll go out and sign a veteran running back, and honestly, I don't think that it's been so long. It's been, a couple weeks now since we've known about this injury, and they haven't done anything. So that speaks to me one of two things. One, they do believe in Henderson and believe that he could actually take that step and be that guy that they needed to fill in. But it also, too, says to me that, like, sure, they could potentially be still looking for a running back, but they're not looking for a running back that's going to come in to take the job. They're just looking for a running back for depth. So because like if you were looking for a guy to come in and take the job, like you want to get him in as soon as possible to camp. You want to integrate him, get him ready for this offense, all these things. And they're not doing that. They're sitting tight, which tells me I would expect, I'm not a genie as much as I wish I was. I can't necessarily tell the future exactly, but I would expect that they're waiting.
It's a fortune teller.
Yeah, fortune teller.
Genies grant wishes.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate it.
We're confusing our
fortune teller.
Mythological helpful pieces.
But I would expect them. I think they're waiting to see who gets cut as far as some of these running backs from other teams, and then that, like, based on who other teams cut, they may bring in a guy. But again, I just think it's for depth. Like, people will freak out when it happens. They're going to be like, "Oh, see, we told you Darrell Henderson was never a thing." But I honestly think it'd just be, once again, like, it would just be for depth, and that's why they would be bringing it in.
We see this all the time, right? In players' development is something that needs to, I believe, paid more attention to on both sides, on their increased development and then maybe some of their regression, development and the negative, if you will. And it's easier to take a look at in basketball, where we have guys like Dwight Howard, who are former Defensive Player of the Year, MVP type players who are now just being passed around for the vet minimum. And you look at them of what they once were. AJ Green in a basketball realm, who was, AJ Green is near the Hall of Fame for fantasy, at least for like a section of what he did. He's not a first ballot fantasy Hall of Famer, but the dude is really, really good, right? And everything that AJ Green has been football wise, fantasy wise, and now he's like slated to be the second, third, maybe fourth option over there, depending on how he performs. And when we take a look at those types of pieces and just the ways that people develop and what they can become, and keep an eye on what that is. So you bring in, like, maybe they bring in Todd Gurley, and it's like, it's just as you put it, a spell piece on this one, but we got to read those tea leaves and see what comes up. J-Bro here says Hurts will be a bust. I think that was in response to me taking Jalen Hurts, and you very well could be right. Very well could be right. But when I look at what Jalen Hurts did, and I also look at what the Eagles are doing right now, I don't have a ton of confidence, but in this mock draft, I'll bake that in as the rounds go down. But with Jalen Hurts, you just cannot pick up what this dude puts down on the waiver wire. And I'm talking about a guy who can throw for over 300 yards and multiple touchdowns and rush for over 100 yards. And that's what we saw Jalen Hurts do in a very small sample size last year, coming in now to his second year. He needs the opportunity. The way that the Eagles are talking about it, I don't know if he's going to get that opportunity. But if he does, we've seen what he can do with it, and it's league shifting. So I'm happy to take him as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th quarterback off the board in a game where ceiling matters.
I've always been on this train the whole off season. I believe that Hurts,
and on the train, you're on the clock too. Just a heads up.
Yeah, I've got my guys. I was just trying to see how I wanted to do this. I'm making sure that I didn't miss on anyone So for me, when it comes to the Hurts conversation, Hurts had 20. He had 20. Like, hold on, let me pull up the exact stat here, but because I don't want to misquote this because it's a good one. So last year in limited playing time, I actually don't. Hurts had like 20. It was like 27% rushing share and limited playing time. Now that is what Kyler put up as far as rushing share. That's what Lamar puts up as far as rushing share. That's what Josh Allen puts up. He puts up a little bit less. He has like about 23% on his like major spike year. I think last year he did have like closer to 27. So from the Konami code standpoint, he has the ability to be one of those quarterbacks that really carries you because his floor is so high with that rushing. It's a cheat code. And so, you're basically a rush for 10 yards is equivalent to what a 25-yard pass would be. And that is such a huge benefit when you're talking about the quarterback position. like Hungry Lion said, they also have brought in weapons. And then I understand the rumors that are swirling around with potential that he could go to Houston. And I've been on record. I was on Friday's show. I brought this up. And actually, I would, a lot of people might at first be a little drawn back by Hurts being traded if he does end up being traded to Houston. I actually think it would be better for him. One, because you've got a coaching staff that then obviously believes in him because they traded a great quarterback for him. But then you also look at that team and he will have to run even more because that offensive line isn't as great. I would say they have comparable weapons with Brandon Cooks. They've got the rookie Nico Collins over there. They just, traded for Anthony Miller, who I think is an underrated wide receiver. They also have David Johnson, who's a great pass catching running back. And that's the thing that's been one of the big pieces for Hurts this season or in training camp is how much he's been utilizing that running back and dumping it off to him. And it's been really working. And so for me, if he does get traded to Houston, I actually think he'll be even better because he'll be running more to try to, get out of the way of defenders behind that line. He has comparable weapons. And so most people might try to, back away from him, but I would stay strong. I do think that people are wrong on Hurts. He's got a top 5 easiest opening schedule for quarterbacks. I think he's going to come out of the gate just swinging. And
here's the other thing about Hurts too. When we talk about those other rushers that you began to draw some comparisons to, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. At this point right now, we're hearing a lot of talk of them throwing more, running less. And they kind of came out and proved it, right? Like you're new in the NFL, you're going to fall back on some of your habitual moves. And if you're a rushing quarterback, that's like running. You've been doing that since you were a kid. And then you develop a stronger pocket presence. You develop a better understanding of how the entire offense works. Jalen Hurts is not at that point right now. Jalen Hurts is fighting for relevancy and trying to prove to the world that he is a viable NFL quarterback. And he's going to lean on his strengths. And his strengths are going to be rushing the ball. He's not going to be trying to do necessarily what is best. He's going to do what's most comfortable to him and that he can reach for and like have a separating impact with, and his legs allow him to do that. So if he just gets the opportunity, I'm loving what Hurts can do. And we see Scott come in and talking about him being traded. And obviously the issues with Deshaun Watson are getting worked out. And I hope they're done with justice and transparency and it lands as it should. With that said, if we're talking football and football alone, Jalen Hurts' trade blockability has nothing to do with what's going to then end up impacting your fantasy season. Just go ahead and look at the 5 games where he was active last year. Clearly having no preparation at all and making a significant shifting impact there for your fantasy team. So don't sleep on Jalen Hurts if he's going to be starting. He
had the same type of games that we saw from Lamar Jackson when Lamar Jackson came in a couple of years ago because the elite Joe Flacco was benched finally for, RG3. And RG3 had, a handful of games not RG3. Lamar Miller had a handful of games at the end of that season where he filled in and he was very comparable to what Jalen Hurts put up last year. And the other thing I want to say about it, first off, the Eagles have done some ridiculously dumb things. And so they wanted the reason why their last head coach was fired was because he wanted to keep going with Hurts, and it was the owners and the GM that was like, no, we could fix Wentz, let's fix Wentz, and they didn't want to do that, and so they fired Doug, and that's why they end up trading they end up trading Wentz because they had some value, right? They knew that they could get something for him. And so that's why they did that. Hurts is a good quarterback. There's a reason why he's played for not only Alabama and was dominant at Alabama, but then went to Oklahoma and was dominant at Oklahoma. He's a good quarterback. People are just sleeping on because he's not the prototypical quarterback, but it doesn't matter for fantasy football.
Johnny, I want to swing this over. And Whisper Nation, if you're listening to what's being said and you agree with some of the points that Johnny and I are making and you feel inclined to hit that thumbs up button, it would help us out a tremendous amount. And if you want to take it back, you can just click it again and it goes away. So Easy come, easy go, no worries. But if you do like it, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button along with the like and subscribe. Love having you here on the show, Whisper Nation. It's truly the highlight of our week. And speaking of highlights, Kyle Pitts is someone that I was thinking about taking, Johnny. I wanted to take him almost just for the sex appeal on this mock draft because he's so fun and, top 5 drafted player, tight end, looking like a unicorn. But I'm like, I'm just not about a mid-level tight end, really. I like Hawkinson because I think he could be the new Darren Waller. I think he's got a shot to do that. I think Kyle Pitts is going to be the future Jimmy Graham, but I don't know about that year one. So there's a couple of guys like at the tight end spot. I'm fading on those, but I really wanted to ask you about the quarterbacking position. We're hanging on to Hurts. We're talking about guys that should be better than their ADP is slotting them now. I think Baker Mayfield for me is one of those guys. We saw him finish the year last year really strong. His weapons are even better given that Odell Beckham is healthy. Jarvis Landry is coming in healthy. If you recall last season, he had that hip issue he was recovering from and did take him about half the season. And then he comes in there and finishes in fantasy wise with we're looking at, week 13, 27 points, 30 points, 20 points, coming in and finishing pretty well, getting a lot of above 300-yard passing games. So I'm liking him. I'm wary of what could happen, but I think he's worthy of a later round stab. Are there any other quarterbacks right now that you think are gems, given that we're in a super flex format? A lot of people go early, but if you weren't one of those teams that went early, who should you be keeping an eye on at the quarterback spot later in the ADP?
I do think that Baker Mayfield is one of those quarterbacks that is, kind of going under the radar. People got burned by him a couple of years ago, so they're still in their feelings about it. But the reality is, I went back and watched some tape on Baker Mayfield, and the reason why he wasn't so good in the beginning of the season, and the reason why OBJ wasn't so good in the beginning, they were off several times. And the reason was because Baker, simply to put it, was not confident in himself. He wasn't reading things the way that, OBJ was kind of reading things. And that's what you tend to see from quarterbacks that are learning the system, that are still trying to get in the groove. And what you saw over the second half it really didn't have much to do with the fact that OBJ was out, because I know a lot of people want to say that and they want to point, they scored more points when OBJ was out. This always happens, and we need to fade OBJ and then fade Baker because of it. But the reality is, Baker started taking shots that he wasn't taking earlier in the season when OBJ was open, and he just didn't feel confident in making that throw. But what you saw was later on in the season, because hey, FYI, if you're not familiar with this, coaches, they run the same plays from week to week, and they'll switch it up from time to time, but it's basically the same concepts. And what you saw was the exact same plays where they would run early in the season, and Baker wouldn't throw it to OBJ, or it'd be just slightly off on a different page. All of a sudden, those same throws were now, he was on sync with his wide receivers. They were open throws that he was making, and that's why you saw him really bust out. And so I do think that will continue. I do think that OBJ will have a much better season, and it's going to surprise people. And unfortunate, the cat's pajamas, we were talking about him, so I was really hoping OBJ would fall to me here, but he didn't. And so I do like it. But the other quarterback that I'm going to talk about, and I'm just going to grab him right now, is Tua Tagovailoa. I really think that he has a lot of upside. I understand what Coach was saying. He was off of him, but everything that I've been hearing from training camp and beat reporters is this guy is a different guy this year. And we also need to remember that, hey, when all else failed, remember these players' talents, right? And I'm not saying you always rely on that, but if a player is very talented in college and doesn't work out just in the first year, we shouldn't just give up on it. There was a reason why they were so highly touted the entire time. Tua was supposed to be the number one quarterback until Joe Burrow had the phenomenal rookie senior season that he had at LSU, and then it flipped. Before that, it was for 2 years straight. It was, Tua's coming out in 2020. Who's going to end up getting him? Who's going to tank for Tua? That was the whole concept the whole time. Right. And even up until week 10 of the NFL, they were still saying who's going to tank for Tua. And it wasn't till, I'm going to run out of time here. I'll just get Mike Davis. I don't like that pick, but I was going to run out of time. I got it in too much. That messed me up.
Is
Oh, wow.
Tua going to be messing up your draft if you're spending too much time thinking about it? Make sure you like and subscribe to catch the
Right?
content coming on late round quarterbacks in 2021. Johnny, I like what Tua did here at the end of the season with 361 yards passing. I don't like the 3 interceptions that he had. I did like the multiple rushing touchdowns he had in week 15.
He has sneaky wheels.
He's got sneaky wheels. He's got sneaky weapons. They're going to have to move the ball. He's going to be behind center. I like what he has flashed. We just haven't seen it all strung together, but the sample size has been so small and he's developed at a crazy rate. Remember, he came in with that injury he was recovering from, and he got the job. Fitzmagic is over now in Washington. They got better weapons than they've had in a long time. I'm excited to see what Tua could be about. And just remember, we're not talking about him as a top 10 drafted quarterback. We're talking about deep flyers that you could come in and grab a season shifting quarterback that's probably still going to be available this late in the field.
The other one I will just throw out there, since you mentioned it in late round, is I got to he's Big Travy's not on today's show, but I will mention that I do think Trey Lance is really moving up my boards. I know the last few days Jimmy G's had better training camps. I know that, San Francisco's come out and said, hey, Jimmy G's our quarterback. We're sticking with him. But I will tell you, beat reporters are literally salivating at Lance. And they're talking about, I saw a tweet. I saw a tweet that from a beat reporter that was like, I wouldn't pay to go to these practices, but if I had to pay to go see a player practice, hands down, it would be Lance. That's how exciting.
What about, he's not a Konami code, right? Is he
but I guess
he's crazy arm. Why is Trey Lance someone we should be getting excited about? Because when I just hear his name, when I just see casual highlights, he just seems like another just a dude.
I know, right? And that's the boat that I kind of was on. I was like, yeah, it's a small sample size. What is the upside for him? All this stuff, and it really was, the training camp stuff, the reports that I'm hearing. Does
he have a crazy arm? Is
he has a monster arm. He has a cannon for an arm. Okay. But what they also said out of beat reporters were saying that since Kyle Shanahan has taken over as a head coach, he's never had a quarterback take off and practice very, very much to scramble. Since the start of training camp, Lance has done it. He did it in a practice 5 times in one single practice, and they had quoted no quarterback has ever done that. And then Kyle Shanahan, since Kyle Shanahan came to the 49ers. So I do think that there's that upside, right? The sneaky upside. We do know how they like to do the bootleg rollouts, and that was what got Kittle open up a lot. But listen, if you're a young quarterback throwing on the run, sometimes they're not confident in that pass themselves. And what do we see end up happening? They pull it down and they run, and that's where they get that Konami code. So that's why it's all coming, starting to come together for me, and I'm starting to get on that bandwagon, because there is a true upside potential in this offense, and with what he's got, his weapons as well as his arm. I think he could potentially put it together, but we'll see. If he were going in. Oh, go ahead.
The other question I want to ask about him, and I like his weapons now. It's been a weaponless place. Hungry Lion says 2 words, Kyle Shanahan. That could work in a couple of different directions. I want to take this in another direction, though, as we're now here in the 8th and 9th round. A lot of the other, I'm glad I did take the Baker pick there early, as Fitzpatrick was my last kind of hang on one here. I want to ask you, though, Johnny, Melvin Gordon is at the top of the list here in the running back field. And I saw Javonte Williams went in the 5th round. That means Melvin Gordon could fall as much as the 9th round plus. Javonte Williams going in the 5th round. Now, I got Javonte in Dynasty. I like his future prospects looking forward, but I've been a little bit disappointed with the success they've been pointing to with him with him over there in Denver. Melvin Gordon looks like he's having a decent camp. All the points of it being the last year on his contract, run him into the ground, seem to be making sense and holding true. In a redraft format, should we be taking Javonte Williams ahead at all, let alone this much ahead of Melvin Gordon?
Here's my advice for people with Javonte. I am on the same boat as Liz Losa. She brought this up, and I'm on that same boat. I think that Williams is going to be the Cam Akers of this season. And what that means is that he is going to start the season off really, really slow.
Mhm.
And, that's going to frustrate people. So what I would encourage our listeners do is don't take Javonte. Let somebody else draft Javonte because they're going to take him in the 5th round. You grab a guy in the 5th round that you believe in, right? Like either a different running back or a wide receiver or another skill position, right? You grab them, and then you are going to win because you're going to have a starter most likely that you found in that 4th round. The player that drafts them in that 5th round, 4th or 5th round, is going to have a hard time because they're going to be, unless they nail that back half of that draft, it's going to be hard for them to try to sustain a winning record if they've got a guy that's, getting 8 to 10 touches and like you don't know when to play him, when not to play him. And then they're going to end up dropping them because they need an actual player, and that's when you swoop up and you get them. You bid, and then you let them sit on your bench because it's a free stash. And like I said, when it comes to the end of the year, I think that's when they start to transition over to Javonte. I think they ride, Melvin Gordon early. Reports out of training, we had someone on the mock draft marathon that had came in that was from Denver, and they were talking about beat reporters and what the radio was saying over there about how, Melvin Gordon was the RB1 right now for them. And that, that's what the team and the reporters kept saying. And I think that that's, you listen to those people. Those people are in with they have insides. They have, our eyes on the situation. So they know more than we do. Everyone is just so excited about Javonte Williams, and rightfully so. He looks to be a great running back. He was our number 1 running back prospect, even above Najee. And so I do think that he is going to be a great running back. But again, I think you're going to have to wait on it. So if you do end up drafting, if you don't think the person that would draft him would end up, dropping him, then, go ahead and take him. But know that later on in your drafts, or plan on that early in your drafts, being like, hey, I'm not going to be able to count on this piece at least for 6 weeks, because that's probably about how long it's going to take for him to truly take over as that bell cow minimum.
Yeah, those are really all interesting points, right? They're bringing up and kind of shifting over here now of the second of the 2 or the third of the 3. There's maybe a segment in that. The second of the 2, the third of the 3. And we all talk about winning your league by getting the most value on your team, right? And Johnny, I know you're about to make your selections here, but there's a lot of situations where it's a committee approach, and we this round right here is actually a great microcosm of exactly what we're talking about right here. We got Laviska Shenault, we got DJ Chark, going in the same round. It's like, who is going to be the lead dog of those ones? We just had Antonio Brown went in this round. It's like,
I wanted him.
I know. I went back and forth on him there too. And it's like, we all know the upside of Antonio Brown. It's his first full year with Tampa Bay. And I know Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are going well above him, but is that distance justified for Antonio Brown, or is it going to be a more even split 3-headed monster? We look at Jarvis Landry, who went in this round as well. We look at him as the number 2 behind Odell, but maybe that's not actually fair. They're teammates over at LSU. Jarvis is not as loud a highlight machine, but the dude doesn't mess around. And as Hugh Jackson says, Juice go bless him. That's what the man does. Yeah. So is Jarvis Landry actually the wiser pick of the 2? Johnny, is Juju Smith-Schuster the wide receiver in Pittsburgh that we should take? We maybe like Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson, but if Juju Smith-Schuster's available, he's got a shot at knocking on the front of the door. Not a big one, but you get what I'm saying with the rest of these characters here. Laviska, DJ Chark over in Jacksonville, Juju Smith-Schuster in Pittsburgh, Antonio Brown in Tampa Bay, Melvin Gordon in Denver, Jarvis Landry in Cleveland. There's so many players that it's like, you're taking the second or the third, but maybe this is actually the number 1, or a guy who has a chance to contend with the number 1 or be in a similar conversation when it's all said and done, but he's coming multiple rounds later. Are there any players right now that really stand out to you, Johnny, in that context of grab the second of the 2 or the third of the 3 that you should be thinking about at around this time in the draft?
Mike Williams, the guy that I drafted, I really like because the reason why is because you look at their offensive scheme. You have Joe Lombardi coming over, and he comes from New Orleans background. And what you see in there when you look at their target market breakup is they generally have that number one, that Michael Thomas role garners like 27% market share plus, and I'm not saying that Mike Williams is going to garner, because I do know Keenan Allen is there, but what we do know is they've already come out and said that Mike Williams is going to take that Michael Thomas role. And so when you look at that and you look at the market share, you're like, wow, the ceiling for Mike Williams is 30% of this market share. Like, that is insane. And if he gets that, and he's a big bodied wide receiver, and now all of a sudden you're having him run slants and be closer to line of scrimmage, and now guys have to tackle him, I think it'll keep his body healthy. I think it's going to improve him a lot. So I do think that he's one of those guys that could emerge as, and the talent has been there. Again, always fall back on the talent. With Jarvis Landry, again, it would have to take another injury for me for OBJ to be, in a PPR, it's a little bit different. He could get, 6 to 8 targets on a game. However, that's not going to be a very, very pass heavy offense. So if I'm taking a secondary wide receiver, I generally want to take a secondary wide receiver that is on a pass happy offense, like an Antonio Brown, which, some might say Antonio Brown's actually like the third wide receiver there, which, case in point, but they throw the ball, 60-40 compared to running, whereas for Juice Go Bless them, Cleveland is a run first offense. They're going to probably throw the ball 20 to 25 times a game, while running the ball, 30 to 40 times a game. And so when I'm generally looking at a number 2 or number 3 wide receiver, I'm more so looking for a offense that throws the ball a lot, and because I'd rather have a smaller market share of that than a small or medium market share on a team that doesn't throw as much.
Yeah, great points on these ones, and great way to bring these types of players together. We had Upper 90 talking about the Tampa Bay running back situation, which is another one that falls into this kind of conversation. We saw Fournette go in this round. He was gone 9 picks or something like that before. Just more of these players that keep coming up. Mostert was taken in this round, and we saw Trey Sermon go 2 rounds before him there. So we saw the question here. Hungry Lion asks, which rookie wide receiver do you guys like best in redraft? Smith, Chase, Waddle, Bateman. Pizza Belly comes in and says Chase, and it's not close. But I'd say over there, you've got T. Higgins, you got Tyler Boyd. What kind of role do they really want for him? Those other
Joe Burrow not looking good.
From the opportunity standpoint, like an Amon-Ra St. Brown, he stands out from an opportunity possible standpoint, not taking him on the same level, but there's just a lot of things to evaluate in terms of a redraft rookie. Dynasty, we're loving Chase, right? But if you're redrafting a rookie right now, Chase still deserves a lot of that early round or top of the rookies selected consideration, but you can't just say for sure the guy who's most talented at the rookie spot is the guy you'd want from a redraft perspective.
Yeah, I mean, think about this last year, right? Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb were the 1 and 2 wide receivers taken off the board, as far as in mock drafts, right? And you also had Ruggs, that was the number 1 in actual NFL draft. And who was it that ended up being the number 1 ranked wide receiver? Justin Jefferson for rookies. And so it's like, we think that the talent, and I'm not saying Justin Jefferson wasn't talented, because he was uber talented in college, but we can't always just read into the one thing, draft capital, and it makes sense here, so like automatic shoe in that it's going to be Chase. Now, does Chase have the best potential shot? Yeah, but there's a lot of things that are also could hinder him that people aren't thinking about. T. Higgins could actually be the number 1 wide receiver over there. He's got to compete with that. Joe Burrow is not 100%, and he's actually statistically very inaccurate. So that's a problem. Will he get better at it? We'll see. But it was something that came up in his stats. And then, you look at somebody like Bateman, he has that talent. He could easily be the number 1 wide receiver out of this group. However, he's with Lamar Jackson. So how much does that hold him back? And then, Waddle, similarly, if Tua really he has a connection with Waddle already, he played with him. And so Waddle could easily be in that conversation. And same with Smith, the number 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles, going to get a big market share. I think
know there's so many question marks over there, but Smith, given the talent of what he's about, and there's nobody else. Like, even if Rigar despite him getting chewed out for a minute straight after making mistake after mistake, let's pretend like he gets it together and he's all what he's supposed to be. He's not supposed to be that number one prototypical guy. He is a playmaker for them, but Smith could come in and be that number one role. Chase is supposed to be, but so is T. Higgins. And Tyler Boyd was everyone's favorite sleeper 2 years ago, and he didn't really disappoint either. So it's just roll on the squad. And in a redraft for the rookies, like I'd be giving a little bit more consideration here to Waddle and to Smith for me personally. Like I like Bateman too, but Sammy Watkins, Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson, there's just so many weird variables to sort through.
And there's going to be another rookie that's going to, surprise a lot of people and come out of nowhere. And, I think Austin knows I've been like looking up a lot, but I'll tell you, Daimi Brown, he looks, oh man. And once again, like I have Terry McLaurin. I still think Terry McLaurin is going to be the number one alpha over there. I think that he is going to have a monster breakout season, but I'm telling you, like we've seen Ryan Fitzmagic produce 2 wide receivers before. So it's not unheard of. And the talent of this kid, oh my goodness. And he's already playing with the ones. He would be a perfect opposite side of Terry McLaurin because it would help relieve. You couldn't double team him all the time, in my opinion, because he's a big body wide receiver who's fast. So that's a guy that could, be on waiver wires come to week 2 that we're all, we're saying, hey, go pick up Daimi Brown because he could be, this year's rookie that no one, kind of comes out of nowhere. So there are some definite, Rondale Moore is another one. We'll see what the health of AJ Green. If the AJ Green goes down, Rondale Moore's been having a stellar camp. You
think he's going to jump Kirk?
I do. Yeah, I think Isabella's out. I think Rondale Moore is. Yeah, Isabella's out. And
Kirk, this isn't the year Kirk jumps in and locks up his relationship with Kyler Murray and does what everyone's been hoping he's going to do for the last 2 years.
I've just seen it too many times. He's had so much potential. He does get injured often. I'm rooting for the kid. I'm rooting for him, but it's just at this point, you kind of see what he is. Now, maybe moving him to the slot really helps him, and that can, transform him. But I'm telling you, when they drafted Rondale Moore, that was a wide receiver that was both Christian Kirk and Andy Isabella basically on steroids, and that's what the Cardinals thought they were getting in those 2 receivers, but it's in Rondale Moore, and so he's super explosive. I think that he could explode on it, but I do think his might be a little bit hit or miss because of the offense, of the amount of weapons they have. So I'm not really confident in his breakout season, but that's an option for sure that you have to look at. There's just a lot of guys, man. There's
a lot of guys. Pizza Belly comes in, follows up. I feel like the Eagles with Hurts won't pass as much as the Bengals. That's why I lean Chase. He could be their number one. He totally could be their number one. This is real. So could T. Higgins. So could Tyler Boyd. Probably not Tyler Boyd. It's probably between T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but we just don't yet know. And I mean, I don't want to take the last thing that was said as what's going to be, but in this game, that's what we have to operate off on. The reports from Jamar Chase were that he wasn't creating as much separation as they would have liked. And that's not surprising, but just like, let's temper our expectations. These are guys who have never played an NFL snap yet. And there are so many variables that goes into being a decent NFL player to a good NFL player to a Hall of Fame NFL player. Like it's such small differences. So we just got to wait and see where that all comes in through. Calvin Brown coming in. Seems like Smith has the easier path. That's something we're going to evaluate when we're taking a look at this. Talent, of course, what kind of opportunity, what the path ahead looks like. All things, especially at the rookie wide receiver position, which is a position there's going to be a couple that pop off. It's as the game has changed. I think Mike Evans was like the 6th wide receiver to ever break 1,000 yards as a rookie, and only 6 at that time. And that was like 7 years ago. But Mike Evans now, since then, it seems like every single year there is at least one rookie wide receiver who breaks 1,000 yards. Try to guess which one it is. We'll see. But
don't like Tua for Waddle. As you said, Lamar doesn't throw enough. Actually, what I'll say is, with the Lamar stuff. But for Tua actually threw the ball deeper. He actually had a fair amount of deep ball passes. They just weren't completions because they didn't have the wide receivers to do so. Now they do. They have, they went out and got Will Fuller, what was his big thing? Deep ball threat. And then, Waddle, he could do that same thing. And what we've heard out of camp is Tua has actually been way more accurate in those middle to deep targets. Not a shock either, because they caught the weapons that, could go out and get it done. And so I just watch out for Tua. I'm telling you, if any, I'm not screaming from the hilltops yet for Tua, and I'm not screaming for the hilltops at all for Waddle, because I do think that there's a lot of options over there. But I do think with the weapon that Tua will be, a top 12. I actually have him within my top 10 secret. Whisper. Actually, I might have adjusted him to 10.
Well, stay tuned. Johnny, you took Tony Pollard in the 12th here, presumably to handcuff your second round, top of the second selection there, in Ezekiel Elliott. We talk about handcuffs a lot. For me, my position on handcuffs have shifted a little bit. If you're going to handcuff a single running back on your entire squad, might as well make it your early selected running back. It's your most valuable. I also now start to evaluate these running backs a little bit differently in redraft formats. If I know if I'm going back and forth, say between like a Zeke and a Saquon, for instance, like let's just say in my mind, they're right there. Then I look at their backups. I say Tony Pollard is going to be filling in for Zeke. I'm not sure who's going to be filling in for Saquon Barkley. Last year, it was Devontae Freeman, Wayne Gallman. They were doing a lot of different things. It also was a bad offensive line and a bad offense there in New York, as it had a better offensive line and a better offense for the Cowboys. And when I take a look at that, I would, God forbid anything happens to my starting running back, I'd rather have, in this situation, Tony Pollard than the makeshift committee backup handcuff situation.
Yep.
And we don't like to think of our dudes getting hurt, but if you had to get an insurance policy for one guy, you'd want it to be one of those early round selected running backs. And if I can grab a guy that has a clear-cut, inexpensive, but still good handcuff, just like Tony Pollard in the 12th round would be for Zeke, I'm going to now bump Zeke up just a little bit in my rankings because that insurance policy is available. It's cheap. And if I need to call on it, it's going to be really good.
Absolutely. I think, when you're looking for these guys, you want to look at, quality above the replacement. Is that replacement running back a quality one that over some rando guy that you can get on the waiver wire? Like you said, like Wayne Gallman, when he came in, like he had some nice games, but was he, CMC, or did he give you the amount of points, that over a replacement level running back that you can grab off the waiver? And it's like, not really. And so it's like, like you said, when you're trying to grab these handcuffs, look for the handcuffs with hey, surefire, this guy is going to be the guy that comes in. It's not going to be, some geek off the street, if you know what I mean. Earn your keep. And so that's why I like Tony Pollard. That's why I like it with Ezekiel Elliott. Obviously, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, you have to pay up a little bit more. So I'm not as much of a big fan of, doubling that one. And what we've seen, like last year was the first year that Nick Chubb got injured. Prior to that, he had played every single game. So he's pretty durable. But I think what you said was perfect.
Yeah, just me kind of factoring in and thinking about as I pick up other guys. Like for instance, like Christian McCaffrey is ahead of Dalvin Cook for me, but let's pretend they're just a little bit closer and you're going back and forth between Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook. I would lean Dalvin Cook because I'm feeling good about Alexander Mattison. I'm feeling good about the team's desirability to run regardless of who the running back is in Minnesota, more so than I am if Christian McCaffrey went down and the Panthers' outlook at the running back position. I don't know if it's going to be Chubb. I don't know if it's going to be the veteran halfback that they have over there. I don't know if they're going to try to just throw the ball more. But I know if Cook goes down, it's obviously not a seamless replacement, but it's more of one in terms of here's our guy, next man up, let's get it going, than it is from a Christian McCaffrey, which would then break down into a committee type of approach.
Absolutely. ML coming in. Regulators, mount up. That's right. You got it. You got that reference. Boom.
There it is.
There it is.
So we're coming down to the end of our mock draft here, Whisper Nation. It has been a joy to hang around here, answer questions, mock draft alongside of you. If you've stuck around this long and you've enjoyed what you've heard, do us a favor and hit that thumbs up button. That's right next to the like and subscribe. I don't know if it actually is, but y'all are smart. You can find all those buttons over there. It would do us a big honor to hit that thumbs up and allow us to grow out what we love doing so much. We're going to be coming to the end of the show here pretty quick. We're going to be dropping our end of the show bit, but then essentially we're going to go behind the scenes, and Johnny and I are going to take a look at everybody's team, and we're going to speak a little bit loosely and kind of break it down just from how the ways the rest of the room here drafted along. We'll go one by one. We'll get the other 10 teams, and we'll do our best to get to the rest of the questions that y'all have asked. And feel free to keep hitting us up with more questions as we keep the behind the scenes portion of the show rolling on. Scott jumps in and says Philip Lindsay will be the starter in Houston, not David Johnson. They won't pay him $6 million. I agree with you. I think it's going to be at the end of the year that it's going to be Philip Lindsay. I think starting the year, it's definitely going to be David Johnson. But kind of as Johnny pointed out, the Cam Akers expected path for Javonte Williams, I think on a much, much cheaper, less exciting route, Philip Lindsay could end up being that lead dog for that dumpster fire Houston team come week, 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever it is.
I don't know. I think people still sleep on David Johnson, and people are just ready to write him off, but his dude just keeps producing. And so we just know that Philip Lindsay isn't a good pass catcher. So I just don't know if
but David Johnson's a placeholder.
He could be,
right? At this point, he's a placeholder, and that's all they're doing because they don't have anything to look forward to, but eventually they will. Eventually they're going to pull in something they're going to try to build towards. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
All right.
We did it.
Human nature. We did it, man. We got to the end here. Anthony Ferkshire, Tennessee tight end for you, Johnny, the last man off the board. Whisper Nation, it's been a joy to draft alongside of you. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up, but stay right here as we're going to jump right into the live section. Is that right, Johnny? Anything else to let them know before we close this one down? Close it down?
Just make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Tune in on Wednesday. We'll be going live for another show, and it'll be a good one.
It'll be a good one. All right.
Right here.
All right.
And we're back.
We're back. How about that?
We're back.
So, Johnny, we didn't get to this really quick, but Upper 90 wants to know which Tampa Bay running back do you guys like better? We mentioned them both as there, but I know you got some things on this.
Yeah, I like Leonard Fournette. I have Leonard Fournette higher in my rankings, but I do think that people are going to get a little frustrated. I think it's going to be much more of a split timeshare. I do think Giovanni Bernard will be heavily involved. I think, Leonard Fournette's passing work upside is going to now be hindered because of it. And so that does have me concerned about those running backs. I'm generally trying to stay away, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think Fournette is the better running back. I just think he got an issue of motivation. He's got an issue of just energy alignment. But Leonard Fournette is the better back. This was a top 5 selected running back in the day coming out of LSU. And when he's freaking mean, it's scary. He likes contact. 3 years ago, he clocked the fastest land speed in the NFL at near 22 miles an hour. He's big. He's a bruiser. He's he's a scary dude, man. His best is scary.
I legit, when he was coming out of college, I legit thought he was going to go down as one of the best running backs we'd ever seen. The dude,
his rookie year looked great too in Jacksonville.
Oh my goodness! And what he did at LSU, he would just mow over people. Now I understand it was college, and it was okay, that's what they do, these elite athletes. But it was that dude. Literally, I was I don't know how anyone's going to even stop this guy. He's that big. He's he can do it all.
He just mowed mofos down, bro.
Yeah, and not anymore. Well, sometimes.
We'll see.
Sometimes
we'll see. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these drafts, dude. We've got 12 players, you and me minus. That's 10. We'll each take on 5. Did you want to rotate these ones, or do you want to do 5 and then 5?
We could do 5 and 5. That sounds good.
All right.
You want to take these first 5 sections? And
sure.
I'll do the back half here.
Yeah, sounds good. So you want to highlight Easy Daddies? Then I'll start with that one. Easy Daddy in the 1-2 spot takes Alvin Kamara, and we'll stick with the running back selections here. He pairs Kamara up with Josh Jacobs as his 1-2. Bench depth would be Damian Harris and Kenneth Gainwell. Really love Damian Harris there as a bench piece. Belichick's be damned. No, seriously, Belichick's pay attention to them because Damian Harris looks like the lead dog. But that doesn't mean that Sony Michel or Ramondre Stevenson or James White aren't going to eat into that. So he might be the best running back in all formats. Just temper expectations from an opportunity standpoint. But I love where you get him there in the 9th round. Your running backs are solid starting and depth-wise. Your second selection off the board was Travis Kelce. And then you get Kyle Pitts again in the 7th. So you really like what you've done there from a positional separating standpoint. You did spend for it, but you got the tight ends there. You're liking that. Wide receivers then. Chris Godwin was your number 1 taken in the 5th round. I got to say, that's a better first wide receiver taken in the 5th round than I thought you'd have still available. You pair him up with Deontay Johnson, who could be a monster this year. And then Corey Davis, I don't think he's got a chance to be as much of a monster. Or Callaway, though, who is looking like the best wide receiver since Michael Thomas has left the building for the Saints temporarily. Or not, we'll see. Temporarily,
yeah, you never know.
you never know, man. There's been a lot of updates, and none of them have been good. So, but Callaway's updates have been nice. I do like him there for you. Your wide receivers, you didn't take one until the 5th, and it shows, but it did a really good job of balancing it out in terms of upside and floor play. Godwin and Johnson are both relevant. They have a lot of upside, and then Callaway down there is fine. You might need to do some work there, but I think this is an overall really well-run team. Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, that's elite. And then Fitzpatrick as your second, and Jameis Winston there is the third. Like this is a strong squad at all the positions, and it's impressive that you were able to get this type of wide receiver balance that you didn't get one until the 5th round. Nicely done there, Easy Daddy. Moving over to Death by Rona, who takes the first quarterback off the board, Patrick Mahomes. And his second quarterback to pair up with that would be Derek Carr, because remember, this is a super flex. So I like those both ones. I think Derek Carr is going to be having a pretty good season up ahead. Nothing crazy, but he's your number 2. Running back, you take Joe Mixon in the 2nd, and you pair up Trey Sermon not until the 8th round, but then James Conner in the 10th, Philip Lindsay in the 13th. I like Joe Mixon. I don't love Trey Sermon. It could be the guy to have when it's all said and done, but Raheem Mostert is the lead back for now. Trey Sermon, they went up and they reached for him and they picked him up. I like his future prospects. Redraft year 1, though, I'm tempering expectations. So if you waited this long on a second running back, you would have filled in then presumably with a lot of wide receivers. And it looked like that's what you did, taking 5 of them in a row, with the first being DK Metcalf at 3-3, Julio Jones in the 4th, Amari Cooper there in the 5th, Adam Thielen and Kenny Golladay. I mean, this is a really nice looking stack of wide receivers, high upside, high floor in the sense of relevancy, like Julio Jones and Amari Cooper, even Adam Thielen and Golladay. They're going to be on the field a lot, even if they are disappointing. But I think those are great dice rolls to pick up, and you got them a little bit later, and it's a really strong wide receiver core here, not grabbing one until the 3rd round. And you got Patrick Mahomes. I like that. Death by Rona. Well done. And then tight ends, Hunter Henry and Logan Thomas. So those got them late. I like their upside. Good squad. Moving over here to Pizza Belly, who takes Josh Allen at the 4th selection, second quarterback off the board. And your second quarterback then would be Matt Stafford, who we all love as a dark horse pickup. I think you got him at an appropriate selection given the Superflex format. And then you picked up Sam Darnold to be your 3rd there for injuries or bye week fill-in, whatever it might be. I like that with Sam Darnold. I'm interested to see what the former top 5 selected quarterback is going to do in his new home of Carolina. You took Antonio Gibson there in the 2nd round as your number 1 halfback and paired up Travis Etienne, second halfback taken in this year's NFL draft, and Myles Gaskin, the presumed starter in Miami, and then David Johnson, the starter at the running back position in Houston. I kind of like this mixture. I'm not going to lie. I don't like Myles Gaskin. I don't love David Johnson, but where you got him, you got 2 starting running backs with the Gaskin and David Johnson pretty late. I like the value on that. Meaning nice compliments there for Antonio Gibson, and Travis Etienne is a bit of your wild card. And I like how you supplemented that wild cardness with a Gaskin and Johnson, who are a little less sexy, a little bit more secure, a little lower of an upside, but their role is more reliant, I'd say. It's a decent, well put together running back squad here. Let's take a look at the wide receivers then, with Justin Jefferson, the first, taken off in the 3rd round. He's volatile, but he was awesome last year as the number 6 wide receiver in multiple formats. Second year coming in, we expect him to be better. We've also seen what Juju Smith-Schuster did. But Deebo Samuel and Brandon Cooks, you're pairing him up along with Darnell Mooney. Pretty good ceiling, not bad floor. This is just also well done. There's no reaches. There's nothing weird. Mark Andrews is your tight end. That's an impactful player. Mid-round, be damned. And then Jonnu Smith down there. I like him even more as Hunter Henry's ailments seem to continue getting going. Nice dart throws at this position. Moving over then to the football ninja, who takes another quarterback. Popular run there, going first with Kyler Murray. He pairs up Kyler Murray with, seems the industry's value favorite in Ryan Tannehill. And then the aforementioned Trey Lance would be your third. You also picked up Jared Goff as some depth at the quarterbacking position. And I love that. I like Jared Goff down there at 11. I think you play him more likely than you play Trey Lance, but I know why you did what you did. So let's just see how that ended up impacting the rest of your positions on your fantasy squad here. After quarterback, I would say running back would be most notable in the Superflex format, where you took number 1 rookie running back off the board, Najee Harris, in the second round to pair up with DeAndre Swift. I don't hate that combination there, especially doing what you had to do, not making running back a premier, going quarterback early. Your third running back would be A.J. Dillon. We love those quads. We like Jamal Williams being out of Green Bay. We'll see how much of a role A.J. Dillon carves out. Gus Edwards looks to be entrenched as that backup behind J.K. Dobbins, but he just averages over 5 yards a carry all the time. And with Mark Ingram out of the picture, you expect for Gus Edwards to be more relevant, to have more stabs at the goal line, to get more early down running back opportunities as well. So I think your running backs, they're pretty solid. They're not the best, but they're not bad. Wide receiver, then you didn't take one until the 7th round, which is late, but I like what you kind of did here. T. Higgins in the 7th, Devontae Smith in the 8th, DJ Chark in the 9th, and then Curtis Samuel will be your last one there in the 13th. You're obviously not looking at wide receivers as your strength, but you've got upside. T. Higgins was a highly drafted, great pedigree, 6'4" wideout. He could be Joe Burrow's number 1 target. We talked about Smith being one of the favorites at the rookie spot. DJ Chark. I like LaVisca, but I'm not surprised if it is DJ Chark as Trevor Lawrence's top option. And Curtis Samuel should be in his best situation since being drafted as that clear number 2 wide receiver. So pretty good. And then Hawkinson, I love Hawkinson at the tight end spot. So well done here, football ninja. No major issues. 1, 2, 3, 4. My last one here, I'll take a stab at NYG Noah, who's become a regular. Love to have you on the show, man. Hope to keep seeing you around. He takes Dak Prescott there at 6th. That's the one. It's just not for me. I'm just not ready to jump on board with Dak Prescott this early until I see him throw the ball with his new shoulder issue, run the ball with his recovered leg. I just need to see it happen for me. That's a super premium to take him there at 6th. And I just need to see him actually make some football happen before I take him over Lamar Jackson. Right now, I would have just faded on it, but that's not me. That's you here. So let's see what else you did with taking Prescott there. Justin Fields as your second quarterback there in the 7th. I love the Konami code and the separation Justin Fields could bring, both the Chicago Bears on the ground when he's running the ball, as well as your fantasy team when he's racking up points. But he's not even the starter right now. He is second fiddle to Andy Dalton. We all expect for him to get that role. You don't go out and draft him where you do. You don't intend to play him, but it's Andy Dalton right now, and you don't have a third quarterback. So that gives me a little bit of a pause. And in a super flex, you're just not going to have the type of waiver wire opportunities available that you would in a single quarterback redraft type situation. So that makes me a little bit concerned. It's going to set you back. In the second round, you took your first running back, though, Jonathan Taylor. We all love how Jonathan Taylor finished the season. But his lack of quarterback is giving me a little bit of a concern. I know that he should still be good, but I don't know how good the Colts are going to be, even if that offensive line stays true, even if the defense steps up. I just don't know. And that's bad defenses are good for quarterbacks. Bad defenses are not good for early down running backs. And that's what you got here in Jonathan Taylor. So I'm a little bit nervous, but I love the upside. It's a sexy pick. Kareem Hunt there in the 5th, like him, especially in a PPR format. We all know what Kareem Hunt can be about. Him and Nick Chubb look to be working really well together. This is the number 10 overall running back in standard and PPR formats that you got after 10 running backs had been selected. So that's a nicely done selection there as far as I'm concerned. And Leonard Fournette would be your 3rd running back. I think that's nice depth as your 3rd, especially where you got him. Wide receiver, Calvin Ridley is your 1st in the 3rd round. He's a top 5 wide receiver last year. And if that offensive coordinator switch can just not hurt him too much, he should be ripe for another wide receiver 1 finish. It's Julio's not there at all. And Russell Gage is not going to be contending for number 1 type looks. So you got him there. CeeDee Lamb will be contending for number 1 type looks in Dallas, despite Amari Cooper being over there. CeeDee Lamb is just that good, ladies and gentlemen. And Michael Gallup's not going to be extended on his contract. That's already being felt because of CeeDee Lamb, you got to presume. So we're liking him. He did take him kind of early. But grab your dude. As we say here, if you like a guy, go ahead and reach for your guy. And that's what you got to do to get him, and you got him. Jamar Chase would be your 3rd wide receiver. I like that you filled in with Juju Smith-Schuster, Michael Pittman, and Russell Gage there. Makes the Jamar Chase an easier pick to put down the gullet, because if you get him and he pops off and he's this year's Justin Jefferson, done. If he's a little bit of a slouch, you got Juju Smith-Schuster to fill in there, and I think Gage is in a good position to get around 900 yards as well. So I actually kind of like this. And Goddard and Gesicki are nice later round tight ends, especially Goddard, who's got Ertz out of the picture, and Gesicki, who is a big, chunky wide receiver who plays tight end. And a new year could be a new outlook. I think Gesicki is a fine 2nd tight end for you. And my Genoa, I like this squad minus the quarterback situation. I would have tried to decrease a little bit of that risk. But otherwise, I think this is a fine squad. If I had to go ahead and pick one team on here, is that how we're doing it, Johnny? I've got to pick one out of these 5.
Yeah.
I think that the most well-rounded team on this one, it's hard for me not to go with Easy Daddy. Like coming back on this one, just from how well-rounded it was, like not taking a wide receiver late, but to get Godwin and Johnson who could be there, and then Rodgers and Fitzpatrick and Winston, Kelsey and Pitts. He's got trade value. It's a good starting lineup. I'm a little nervous about the depth. You got to get some things going, but I really like this starting lineup.
Our guy from the north.
There it is, Easy.
All right. I will break down the second half of these teams. Before I do, we have 17 people watching. We appreciate you for sticking around this after show mock draft breakdown. If you could do us a huge favor, hit that subscribe, hit that bell so you get notified anytime we go live, which is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or drop new content, which is daily. All right, let's jump into the second half. I got Drew K. Liu, which is he's the son of Death by Rona. They are both in the Listener League. They're going to co-manage a team together, so it'll be exciting. They have different drafting strategies, so that makes it a little bit different too. So in the first, he took Lamar Jackson, paired him with Justin Herbert. Those were his 2 quarterbacks. I think those are very solid quarterbacks. They both have really high upside, pretty solid floors. For his running backs, he went J.K. Dobbins in the 3rd, got Miles Sanders in the 4th, Michael Carter in the 8th, and Kenyon Drake in the 10th. I do like that stack. I am concerned about Dobbins. I have some concerns about Sanders not having a great camp. I do think Michael Carter will end up being the guy you want for the Jets, and Drake has in a PPR league. I do think he has some solid floor there with potentially high upside if anything happens to Josh Jacobs. Wide receivers, you took DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk, Antonio Brown. You sniped him from me. Elijah Moore, Henry Ruggs, and Rondell Moore. A bunch of upside guys. This is definitely a swing for the fences upside type of team. You could end up, having one of the best teams if they all hit their ceiling. I have some doubts with a bunch of these guys, so the floor could be pretty low at the same time. You did grab Noah Fant, who I do think is an underrated tight end, and he's going to be pretty solid. Not a bad team right here. I think that swinging for the upside, especially in a mock draft, is never a terrible thing to do. Moving on to the Cat's pajamas here at the 8th spot, he took Dalvin Cook, then Saquon Barkley, then CMC as his, or sorry, not CMC. That would have been wild to have CMC drop to the 3rd round. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as his 3 RB strategies right off the bat. He also went down and grabbed Raheem Mostert in the 10th round, which I think is an absolute steal of a value, even if he does get hurt, 6 weeks into the season. For those 6 weeks, he'll probably be an RB1 for you, and that can take over for Saquon until he kind of eases back. So very nicely done on way to, mitigate the risk with Saquon, because I am a little bit fading Saquon for people that are going right after him. Joe Mixon, Gibson, Harris, and Taylor. I would probably put all above Saquon at this point, even with the offensive line issues with Taylor. Well, I might debate that one. For your quarterbacks, you took Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Carson Wentz. Again, there's some concern there. Joe Burrow, what is he going to look like starting off this season? And is it going to be slow? Trevor Lawrence is a rookie. He is supposed to be the most highly touted, but we will see what they do. I think that they tend to run early in the season a little bit more, which makes me concerned. Zach Wilson, again, cannon for an arm, but a rookie. Carson Wentz expected to miss at least 5 to 12 weeks. So I'm expecting a little bit into the season. So the quarterback situation is a little shaky here, but you went with what you had with starting off with 3 running backs. You had Allen Robinson, OBJ, Jerry Jeudy, and Rashad Bateman as your wide receivers. I think that those are absolutely amazing wide receivers. Well done on that. You nailed the wide receiver spot, I think, in my opinion. And then getting Adam Troutman, he's had a lot of hype. I do think that his upside is a little limited in that offense, depending on who the quarterback is, and we don't really know, but he is definitely one of those guys that's gaining a lot of steam. It's not a bad team, not your best team, I wouldn't say, that you've drafted, but it is a very good team. Should have a very solid floor, depending on what those quarterbacks do. Jumping over here to Smitty Sauto. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Smitty, we appreciate you for joining. This is like a third week trade, I think. He drafted at the 109 spot, grabbed Russell Wilson in the first, and then he paired it with Taysom Hill all the way in the 12th, which is, if Taysom Hill ends up winning that shot, then, this could end up working out for you. It does make me a little nervous if you're going to go the Tyreek, did I say Tyreek Hill? I did not mean Tyreek Hill. If Hill ends up getting that, if he ends up getting that starting position, then it will have worked out. But I probably, if you were going to have that plan, I would have grabbed Jameis Winston and Hill, because you don't know. It's like a 50-50. And honestly, what I was going to say when that came up, Austin, was that it wouldn't surprise me actually if they played both of them each and every throughout the weeks. Like one week they play depending on matchups, because we've seen Jameis Winston has done that before with Tampa Bay and Ryan. They were flip-flopping back and forth. So he's kind of used to that kind of thing. And Sean Payton, I wouldn't put him past him for him to do that, because he likes being like sneaky. And
we saw Jacoby Brissett and Phillip Rivers play 2 quarterbacks last year. That might be something we see more of in the NFL.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. He grabbed Austin Eckler in the 2nd round. Absolutely love that pick. He paired him with Chris Carson, which I do think is losing a little value in my book with, with the Rashad Penny getting a lot of praise, as well as Alex Collins being worked in as well. So there is a floor that is a little lower than before for Carson. You get Javonte Williams in the 5th, which we've talked about, on the show extensively, how that could be a concern. But you paired him with Melvin Gordon, so you did the right thing in getting that handcuff. So it ends up, saving yourself there. Michael Thomas, Jalen Waddle, Robbie Anderson, and Tyler Boyd. Nelson Aguilar are your wide receivers to pair with A.J. Brown. Not bad. You can just play matchups with, some of those guys. I do have some concerns that the floor is pretty low for several of them. But if you can, maneuver and float until Michael Thomas gets back, then you will have some really nice plays with Antonio Brown, or with A.J. Brown and Michael Thomas, and then, filling in that 3rd wide receiver spot. You sniped Tyler Higbee from me, so thank you for that. I do like Tyler Higbee a lot, so I really do like your tight end situation there. All right, moving on to Buck Wild drop 3 here at the 10 spot. He took Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, and he paired him with Latavius Murray as his 3 running backs. Pretty solid at the top end of it. He has Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, Cortland Sutton, Jarvis Landry, and Michael Gallup as his wide receiver stack there. Those are all really solid. They should have really solid floors with high potential. Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, and Danny Dimes as your 3 quarterbacks. It's not bad. Like, you can play matchups with those 3. We know that they do have some upside play. So I think you did a really well balanced here, as well as George Kittle and Rob Gronkowski. I really like your team, even though you don't have the most sexy appealing quarterbacks. I think every other position is very solid. So you definitely have one of the better teams, I'd say, so far. And then coming in at number 11 draft spot, we got BroCow 38 and a Truman for our show, a staple. We appreciate you for jumping on every week. Have Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill with the wide receiver stack to begin. Then he sniped Darren Waller from me Absolutely love that first three there. To pair with your Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill takes you to our wide receivers. You have Robert Woods and Chase Claypool, excuse me. That is a stack of wide receivers for you. That is great. Your running backs that you paired are David Montgomery, James Robinson, Ronald Jones, and J.D. McKissick. I think you planned that really well. Well done. Your other tight end is Cole Clement. And then you grabbed Deshaun Watson, Ben Roethlisberger, and Jimmy G as your three quarterbacks. If Deshaun Watson plays this year, or ends up playing, this is hands down the best team, especially it might be in the whole mock draft. No offense, Austin, with your section, but I would definitely say this is BroCal did the best in my section, but especially if Deshaun Watson ends up playing, like this team. That team could win the championship easily. That all skill positions are stacked and they're consistent with high floors, but also really high ceilings. That's all I got.
There it is. You're not concerned about, that running back 2 spot or the quarterback 2 spot?
No, he can play matchups with it. He'll go, Ronald Jones if he ends up being the guy, or we saw J.D. McKissick get over 100 receptions last year, or 100 targets. I don't think it's quite that high, but I think as a plug and play in PPR, you can get away with like these guys that aren't you're only playing 2 of them because you're going to play 3 wide receivers and then you're going to play 2 quarterbacks each week. So I think it's fine. It's good.
All
upside.
Right. There it is. So we got BroCal 38 and we got Easy Daddy on these ones here. Whisper Nation, let us know who you think did better if you're listening on this one and you got an opinion on that. Or Johnny, how did you feel about yours? Like we're basically done with the show now, right? We're just kicking in here. Yeah. What did you think about your draft? How did you feel about it?
I'm gonna answer Scott here because Scott wants to. Scott, this is not what's going to happen. I'm sorry, man. I know everyone wants to think that this is what's going to happen, but it's been reported multiple times by people that are.
Even catch? Is he even like a pass catching back, or is he just a caught passes?
No, he can catch. He's good at it. But he's just. I think that's just what he's just going to be the change. Like they once again they want to give. There's been several indications throughout all of training camp that actuality too, James Conner has been losing reps to Eno Benjamin of all people. So it's like James Conner is going to bite so many people, and I've been on that bandwagon from day one. So I will take my victory lap when it happens, because I will say it. And hey, I also accept the other side when it happens. But
you and Adam Rank got into this one pretty heatedly during the mock draft marathon, and you actually ended up talking him off of the James Conner train.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other side of it too, Austin. I thought when I saw it, I swear it said it was a $3.5 million contract that he signed. That could have been with incentives. It could add up to that. Bro, his base salary for this year is like $1.8 million. It's nothing. It's nothing. Like,
so basically, like what Hugh Jackson said is they're giving him an opportunity. And when I look at this, I look at it like with these veteran minimum signings in the NBA, where you're here to like fill a role. You're here to fill a role where you're not going to cause us headaches. Like, you better not be fumbling. You better not be like blowing pass blockings. You know what I mean? If we have an open hole for you, you better like not get too cute, hit the hole we built for you and that kind of stuff. But it would take a James Robinson type of emergence, right? To like really shift the tide, being like, whoa, we didn't know we had here. And this dude is like, really like turning heads. And I don't think anyone's expecting that out of James Conner at this point, right?
Not at all. We've seen this. We already know. The thing is we know what James Conner is. We've seen it for the last 3 years. We don't know what the true potential of Chase Edmonds is. That's what the Cardinals are going to try to find out, because it's a contract year for James Conner or for Chase Edmonds. So they need to know, hey, do we need to draft a running back next year? Can we just sign Chase Edmonds to another contract and keep him? Because they've all believed that he's a 3-down back. So, that's all I have to say on that. That's all I got to say about that. But
Easy Daddy coming to BroCal's team is scary. My team's not perfect, but that quarterback room is your make or break. Yeah. I agree with on this one. I like the way that BroCal did come in here and talked about it and defended his picks as well when he trying to scroll up and find the. Oh yeah, someone's like, "Oh, you forgot pick 11, forgot to take a quarterback," and he's like, "I didn't forget anything."
Yeah, he's like, "That's my strategy, bro. I love it, man." He's defending it.
J Bro said, "Team 11 forgot to draft a quarterback," And then he comes in later and says, bro, I didn't forget to draft quarterback. I chose not to.
Boom.
Boom, hit him.
Hey, yeah. That's why you just know you're drafting who you're drafting with. That's
Johnny,
the best.
Where are you drafting in our redraft league? And if you're listening to this one, our redraft league, we do a March Madness tournament back in March. And then, you finish 1st through 12, and you then pick which spot you want based on where you finish. So if you finish number 1 overall, if you had the best March Madness bracket, you pick where you want. You don't necessarily get that number 1 spot. Maybe you want to go at 2 or 3 or 12 or whatever. You pick it, and then the next one comes in and picks from what's available. Johnny, where are you picking this year?
Yeah, I'm picking 11th because I got screwed because I picked Illinois.
The wrong team?
Yeah, I picked Illinois, who was touted to be like the number 2 team in the whole bracket for, some might say, okay, it was, there were the top 4, like, now it was so long ago now that I can't exactly remember all 4. I knew that I had to, most people were going to go in one direction. So I knew I had to switch it up near the end. And so that's why I picked Illinois, which was a huge mistake. I knew I shouldn't have done it, and I did. And so, yeah, I'm picking 11. So it's whatever pick that I'm going to end up. History has shown through our drafts before that it's probably going to land at the 10 or 11 spot. So most likely I'm going to be drafting from one of those, maybe the 9 spot, because that's another one that people don't necessarily love drafting from. So one of those 3 spots is most likely going to be where I'm drafting. But where did you land?
I'm 1 spot before you. I think I'm 10.
Oh, okay.
Or I'm 9.
So.
I just repeated Candace Parker's bracket. I just mimicked it. We started off so hot, and it did finish as well. But I've just been drafting here at the 9, 10, 11, 12 spots. Like that's exclusively kind of what I'm doing. And in our league, it's a standard league, non-PPR, 6-point passing touchdowns, but running backs go quick because it's in just 2 wide receivers started. But I'm actually kind of liking it, dude. Like we've had so many people, like on the mock draft marathon and whatnot, who came in and who was it, Johnny, who's like the 1-1 this year is the spot. Like they're like, that's hands down the best because of the players available when the turn starts coming around. You know what I mean?
It was probably Smitty. Smitty's like a huge guy. That's like, you got to get the 101, but
maybe it was really quick.
I actually don't like doing that one.
I know. When's the next live mock? Next week, same time.
Yeah, next Monday, we'll drop the link. Make sure you're in the Discord channel. The link in that is in the description below. Make sure you hit that subscribe and turn on that bell notification so you get notified when we go live for it. But we will drop the link to the sleeper at around 11:30, 11:40 Pacific time. That's 2:40 Eastern time. And we'll be live at 3 o'clock Eastern time, 12 p.m. Pacific. I think I got my time zones right that time, finally.
There you go. And just because we're on this one, Scott says, and Connors knows he can beat Edmonds. Of course, Connors thinks he can beat Edmonds. Every player, a professional athlete, thinks they can beat everybody. But Edmonds has been preparing for this. And Edmonds, if you listen to him talk about this opportunity, he knows what's on the table, and he's not taking it lightly. I'm not saying that means he's going to succeed, but he's determined. He knows what it's about, and he's set up to make it happen. It's his job to lose. I don't even know if it's James Conner's job to gain. So
I don't think it is.
It's Edmonds until we see something else. But back to the other point, Johnny, I've been taking that 9, 10, 11, 12 spots. I was doing some mocks over the weekend in those ones, and I am actually really liking it. Because for me, dude, there's 8 running backs. Like, there's 8 running backs that I'd be happy taking that I'm not going to get a chance to get. And those 8 would be Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor. Those are the ones that have been going early for us in that way, that I'd be fine taking in the first round. And after that, then I've got 4 elite wide receivers. I've got Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, and DeAndre Hopkins for me. And that closes out 1 round. And then I'm kind of liking being in that first 4 because I'm not in any way, shape, or form disappointed by picking up one of these other those top 8 running backs, but dudes like a Joe Mixon, an Antonio Gibson, an Austin Eckler, and Aaron Jones. Like that's 4 right there that I just mentioned. And so you might be able to chance. I got no problem with one of those running backs being my number 1. And then you get one of the 4 elite wide receivers, if you view it that way. So I'm actually kind of
I think I think you have a lot more flexibility because you can go in so many different directions and be okay. I have some concerns with some of those guys, but that I wouldn't necessarily take that high. But again,
which one would you not take?
I would not take Saquon in the first round. I wouldn't touch him. I think if you take Saquon in the first round, you are doomed.
Oh, I think so, dude. I asked so many people though. There's so many people who are juicing on Saquon, and there's people who are
I know. I know,
on the
but
marathon, like Zeke.
Yeah, I know, but when
Saquon, same thing.
I think Zeke is healthy right now, but the thing is with Saquon, he's not healthy. Everything that they're talking about is saying that, hey, he's going to take, which I had already projected. We did a running back ranking show, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago, and Zeke wasn't even on, or sorry, I didn't have Saquon in that show. And I even said on there, I was like, listen, I'm expecting him not to start playing right away. And even when they do start working him in, it's going to be a slow process. And I think that they're going to take their time with him because he is such an asset, all that stuff. And on his side too, he doesn't want to, he knows he's about to get paid. And so he wants to make sure he's fully healthy. He can really show what he's got. Now, once again, if you can maneuver the waters and you can, float until he gets back to full strength, which probably won't be till week 6, week 7, then okay, it's hard. It's hard. And Austin, you know me, I'm normally the guy that's like, I'll take the gamble. I could get through the seat, but the more and more I do it, the more and more I'm like, yo, that's not you got to have those starters in the beginning to get you.
You wouldn't want to take him at the turn. Like if you're picking 12, you wouldn't put Saquon up with a Tyreek Hill. You wouldn't put Saquon up with Stephon Diggs. You'd pass on Saquon and grab. In our league, I'd say Austin Eckler is probably still going to be available. I know some people really love him in the middle of the first. Ours is a standard. Would you take Austin Eckler over Saquon?
Yes, I would. 100%.
Would you take Joe Mixon over Saquon?
I would. Yep. 100%.
I
would take Gibson over him. Where it would probably
J.K. Dobbins going in the next round.
I'd rather take a wide receiver.
I
play the fifth. Yeah, it's like I'll take because
your boy Swift or Saquon.
I'm taking. I don't know. That one's tough. That one's really tough. Because here's the thing. It also pairs it matters about who you take in that first round. Like if I got Nick Chubb, if I was like Nick Chubb and then I was like Parham, like, okay, like I could probably get by with like another middling RB2 later on, and I could take a Saquon in the second, and then like once that comes back for the playoffs, like I'm like, it's hard to beat that, right? But like if you go in that first round and you kind of take like a more kind of gambling, like a Jonathan Taylor, or like, some people are reaching up for Antonio Gibson, and it's like you're going to take a gamble, or Eckler in a way, because in a way, like Eckler is a bit of a gamble. He hasn't stayed healthy the full time.
I think he's a hell of a gamble, dude. I don't want him in the first round in our standard league.
I'm okay with it because I think of when you think of the coaching staff that's over there, I think he's going to be utilized in a different way. But there is the injury concern for sure, like with him.
They don't even want him running the ball, rushing the ball 20 times. Like they don't. In an ideal world, he never does that, and that's just hard for me. Like I know he could get 100, he could get 100 catches and 1,000 yards through the air.
He's going to be used more.
Just needs a little bit more volume on the ground for me to feel good about my first running back taken.
And that, I mean, some people like that, but I also view the game a little bit differently. I'm like, okay, how many total touches is he going to get, and what's his? I also know like pass catching is more valuable than running on the ground.
But Saquon could get just as many targets as
I don't think
Eckler,
so.
Right? No, I know it's probably not, but he could.
He's not
right.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's. If you look at what I don't think, because you're looking at a guy who's going to be missing at least 3 weeks. You're also looking at a guy when
you're saying you expect Saquon to be out for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I expect him to be out for 3 weeks into the season. And when he does come back, he's not going to come back and instantly walk into 20 touches or 20 carries and 8 targets per game. He's going to be eased in. He might see like 12 to 15, and maybe like 3 to 4 passes per game, and then he's going to have that for 2 to 3 games, and then they'll start really ramping him up. Now, can you get through all that time with a guy like you? it's a week by week thing. And you're talking about taking a guy who's going to miss potentially a third of the season, half of the season before he's fully healthy. And then you got to really start saying, okay, what is that really worth versus a full season of another player potentially, right? So that's why it's so hard for me with DeAndre Swift. It's not that I don't think, it's like I'm really taking account, okay, I do expect DeAndre Swift to be the main guy there. I'm going through my head and thinking about, what the market share is for him for a whole season. And now what does that compare to a diminished market share for Saquon? I also have concerns the Saquon that we saw 2 years ago, that was like the mega monster breakout that was getting all the targets. They had OBJ and him. That's it. That was the only targets that they had. They had Evan Ingram, but that's
Evan
not
Ingram and
great.
Odell Beckham, and now they got Kenny Galladay and Evan Ingram and
No,
Sterling
so now
Shepard and
no, but they
Tony?
also have Kadarius Toney, who will take those. He's going to get carries, those
that's
many screens. You also got the backup running backs that they do believe in that are going to be used early. Those guys are going to take carries and touches away and pass out of the backfield. And I just think, and then you got Darius Slayton now as well, that they didn't have before. So they just have a lot more plethora of weapons than what they had before. That I do think it all
would need.
diminishes.
So it's a projection, right? We're not playing like a what could be game, but if we were, his rookie season, he had 121 targets, 91 receptions for 721 yards in the air to go along with his 1,300 yards on the ground. It's 2,000 yards.
That was a full season. That was a full healthy season. He's not full and healthy. He's not healthy.
The last time he had a full healthy season. That's what he did.
Yeah, like, I mean, and Pat Mahomes threw for 50 touchdowns one time, but I don't know if that's going to ever happen again. Like, I don't want to just aim for the ceiling, because the ceiling is very unrealistic for him to reach. Like, I
know, and
I would be absolutely, if he gets 1,300 rushing yards I will be, even with those an extra game, based on what he's coming back from, where he's at, I will be absolutely shocked if he rushes for 1,300
He's the
yards.
guy. I'm so excited if Saquon falls to me, like, later on. You know what I mean? Like, especially if it's, I don't think he's going to the second round, but like if he does fall back there,
I wouldn't touch him before the second round.
I would,
and like halfway.
I would take that risk on Saquon. I have no problem with that at all. If he's healthy, he's the best running back in the world. And it's not even really that close. Like Saquon, we forget how good he was. Rookie year, 2,000 yards total on a horrible team. He's the guy you want at the goal line. He's the guy you want catching passes. He's the guys you want early down. Like, he runs dudes over and can juke better than LaShawn McCoy. Like, he's so good. We forget. Like, we haven't seen it. And that year that he played, like, he missed like 4 games and had a high ankle sprain for the majority of them. He was still an RB1. It's like the RB number 9 in standard, like 10 in PPR or something like that. Like, he just needs to be healthy.
But he didn't have, right. And he didn't have, which he's not, which already, like, that's
and
the
Austin
concern.
Eckler's been hurt just as much as he is, but we all want to suck Austin Eckler's D all day long.
No, it's like he's healthy right now. And then you look at this offensive coaching system that he's walking into is the New Orleans one, where he had Alvin Kamara, and he's going to be that Alvin Kamara role. So he's not going to be running up the middle every time.
He's like 28 years old.
He's actually metrically, he's very, very similar. Actually, when you look at the numbers, he's very
Go watch the game film, dude. Austin Eckler is no Alvin Kamara, man. No, come on.
I'm just telling you.
It's not like
I have Austin Eckler. I have Austin Eckler as a top 5 running back in PPR and PPR. I got Austin Eckler as a top 5 running back. He's gonna shock you.
I know. I'm like okay taking him as a stack, and I'm messing in their totem settings like Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler as like a 1-2 stack. I think that's an okay one. I like the back if that ended up being available.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now where I have.
Give a shout out. What up, MF Cowboy? What's going on, man? Good to see you. Mock draft marathon.
Yeah, I
pick up.
We'll see. I don't know if I have that much confidence in Saquon. I'm very concerned.
Yeah, I'm not reaching up for him, but if he falls out, I think he is. But I was talking like Brett Johnson. I was talking to Hannon. I was talking to Zabo about all those guys. And there's just people who love him. So I'm just saying, like, in our draft, it would have to like avoid every landmine for him to fall that far back, because there are people who love him. Like,
I pray someone takes him in the first round. I would love it. What?
MF Eckler. MF Cowboy does not. Kamara's way above it. Not metrically.
Yeah, not
says-
metrically.
I'm excited to see what's about this year. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's always so much fun, but big new storylines. I can't wait to see what Kamara's like without Drew Brees. And I think he's going to prove people wrong. Like, I used to be on the Kamara product of the system train, and that is such a stupid take. Like, that guy is special. He's got a different head on his shoulders. He treats his body and his training and his developmental regime different than other players do. He's setting a new standard to how people train and what is expected from them.
Mhm.
And Kamara's just special, dude. The guy moves like water.
Oh, I definitely think that he's a special talent.
Eckler's also special.
I do think that. I mean, again, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, all of a sudden Austin Eckler is going to be like one of the greatest running backs that we've ever seen. But I'm just saying the way that they're going to use him, like we've seen this before where these running backs that are pretty solid, and then they get this really nice coaching system, come in and like look, Alvin Kamara last year only had 187 carries on the ground, but he had 107 targets. Once again, we know that the target, like Alvin Kamara didn't even rush for 1,000. Like Alvin Kamara didn't even rush for 1,000 yards last year.
Has he ever rushed for 1,000 yards even? No, he hasn't.
No.
932 last year was his best.
But guess what? Look at his receiving. 756 last year, which was number 1. We do know that Austin Eckler can receive out of the backfield very well. That's what he was like so good. So it's just like, you got to look at what they're doing, where the offensive scheme is. That's a big part of it, and what they're trying to do with these players.
No, and Eckler's best in terms of receiving yards is better than Kamara's best. In 2019, Eckler had 92 receptions on 108 targets for 993 yards, just 7 yards away from 1,000 yards receiving that season. Kamara's best was his rookie year. 81 receptions on 100 targets for 826 yards. So, I mean, I'm not pointing on a target to reception standpoint here, just saying that like Eckler is the elite pass catching halfback who also gets early down work.
I was just trying to tell you. I was just trying to tell you what the stats are telling me. Like that's what I do. You know me. I always fall back on what the stats tell me. I let those lead me to my conclusions, and that was what the stats were showing with Eckler. So that's why I'm so high on Eckler.
Yeah. Hey, do we have a MF Cowboy want to know? Not that one. Scott asked, do we have a date for draft position draw for Listeners League?
Yes, August 22nd. Is coming up. So we're going to be sending out those links today for those listeners. We have 2 more to announce for 2 more spots. And yeah, that's going to be Sunday, the 22nd, August 22nd.
Dude, ML brings up a good point on this one. Lombardi doesn't mind using smaller guys like Kamara at goal line. He likely won't shy away from using Eckler at the goal line. We all think that it's AJ Dillon, Derrick Henry's exclusively, right? It's not. James White in the Super Bowl. Right? Like who can someone sniff it out? Someone's going under the legs and just getting the tip of the ball over that goal line. That's what it takes. You don't need to get your asshole over the edge of it. You just need to get the tip of the ball. Yeah.
When they go high, you go low, dude.
And sometimes you got that ability to do that when you're a smaller dude, like an Eckler, a James White, a Kamara, or whatever. So.
I mean, Eckler only had 3 rushing touchdowns last year. That was so minimal. I think that definitely goes up. And yeah, I'm just really high on Eckler. I get if people aren't trustworthy in him. Like a lot of people like production, like they like to see it and not just go with what could be and what things are shaping out to be. I totally get it. So that's why we always tell you, on the show, we always recommend who we would play. We always say, go with your guy. Like if you don't like Eckler, don't pick Eckler because if I'm wrong, which I could be, there's a 50-50 chance that I'm wrong, that if I'm wrong, then you're going to not only be mad at me, but then you're going to be mad at your fantasy team because you're like, I didn't even like Eckler. I only went there because Game Time was telling me. But like, so it's like
it's a long season too, and that energy just makes you like resentful. Like if you grab the guy you don't want and it doesn't work out, and then you got him week after week after week after week, like you don't want that energy flowing through your veins for multiple months. Like grab the guy you want. Do the work in the beginning to make the guys you want good guys, but then take the guys you want. Yeah,
I'm just a fantasy analyst and do your own research. These aren't fantasy. This isn't permanent fantasy advice. Do your own research. Or whatever they say on those financial shows.
That's it.
All right.
Last question. Would you rather have a 3-down back or a red zone 4th down back? I mean, a 3-down back is all of it, right? Like,
right.
That's Christian McCaffrey. That's Saquon Barkley his rookie year.
Yeah.
I don't want a guy who's just like a 2-minute offense guy.
Especially if that offense isn't that great, like if it's
good point.
Yeah. So I would definitely go with like the guy who's going to get volume. You want to chase volume, but you also want to chase volume on a good team.
Explosive volume is what I'm
Explosive volume. That's it.
I'll take explosion over straight volume. Like give me a Kareem Hunt over a Devontae Freeman playing for the Giants any day.
Agreed. So we had the draft position is what Scott. So Scott, I will be doing a live stream and we'll be busting out the game time draft-o-matic. So we'll be doing that. We got to get that on the schedule. So look out. Maybe we'll do it this Friday. Maybe we'll do it this Friday. We'll do the draft-o-matic. I'll pull that out, set it up, and we'll do the drawing for positions. Either that or early next week. One of the two.
Well, Whisper Nation, keep an eye out for the draft position draft-o-matic extravaganza selection episode coming your way pretty soon. And you can catch that along all the other great content simply by liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Follow along with Twitter and the Discord channel as well. Gets you all the early links to our mock drafts, which we do every Monday starting at 12:05 Pacific time. And also, if you join our Patreon at the $5 level, you'll have early access to those, and they always fill up. So that will ensure that you've got an opportunity to draft alongside us should you choose to do so. And it allows us to keep growing our channel and do what we love the most, and that's interacting with you, Whisper Nation. So let us know if you got any questions throughout the week. We'd love to answer them, and we'll catch you back here, same place, same time next week. Johnny, anything else?
Go get that draft kit if you need it.
Go get that draft kit if you need it. I'm Austin Sear. It's Johnny Game Time Hicks. We are the Fantasy Whispers, and we're out.
Peace.
Right here.
Oh, hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw and you want to learn how to dominate your own draft and win your own league, head on over to thefantasywhispers.com and grab your copy of the Fantasy Whispers Draft Kit today, or click the link in the description below. And if you're still not sold, check out one of these videos.